So for about 4 to 5 weeks in the month of May to June, Rose Centifolia, or Rose de Mai, is harvested in this little town in the south of France called Grasse. So today, since it is May, I thought I'd put together a list of Rose de Mai fragrances, or fragrances featuring Centifolia, Rose Centifolia. I've got 10 fragrances here. It's a top 10 list, but it's an unranked list. I do have one bonus fragrance, plus one of the fragrances is 2 different fragrances in this list, but all of them feature not only Rose Centifolia or Rose de Mai or May Rose or the Cabbage Rose, but they also feature other rose as a note. There's Turkish Rose, there's Bulgarian Rose, and of course Damask Rose and things like that. So find out about Rose de Mai fragrances coming right up. Thanks so much for tuning in. This is Sebastian. Yes, it's May, and this is the time of year that the Rose de Mai, or Rose Centifolia, or May Rose, is harvested in the south of France. And I really do enjoy this particular rose. It's a sweet and honeyed kind of a experience, and very, very strong fragrance. Like, it's got a really, really great smell. When I walk around and I see this kind of a rose, I'm immediately attracted to it, because if it's warm outside and it's baking under the sun, the smell of this rose is so amped up and amplified, you can actually smell it. And of course, not all roses have this kind of a very, very strong smell, but when I do see this particular rose, the Rose de Mai or the Rose Centifolia, I immediately go towards it to take a whiff, because I really do enjoy the smell. But I've got these fragrances here that do feature this note, and I had to look up and do some research, and it turns out I have, 11 different fragrances, maybe 12, because I am having 2 for 1. So I thought I'd put together this list together, and some of you were asking me because it is that time of the year. If you're a fan of this note, let me know, put a comment down. But before I get to the fragrances, if this is your first time tuning into this channel and you haven't subscribed, please do click the subscribe button below, and also click the bell so that you'll be notified for future videos and giveaways. Yeah, do let me know if you're a fan of rose, or if specifically Rose de Mai. And as I said, these fragrances, not only do they feature the Rose de Mai or May Rose or the Rose Centifolia or Grasse Rose or Provence Rose, and it's even called Cabbage Rose. Go figure, all these different notes, the different names for this particular flower. So if you are a fan, let me know, put a comment down. And as I said, I am a big fan, and these fragrances will feature this particular note, but they will also feature other rose, other different types of varieties of rose as well. Because a lot of times you'll see Bulgarian rose listed, you'll see Damask Rose listed, and so on. So why don't we go ahead and start off with the first fragrance, going to the house of Tom Ford. I specifically looked this one up, and this is featuring 3 kinds of rose notes. This is a rose prick, and it does feature the May Rose, it features Bulgarian Rose, it features Turkish Rose. It also features Patchouli, Tonka beans, turmeric, and Sichuan pepper. So it definitely has an earthy edge to it, but lots of different roses. It's definitely really like full-on in-your-face roses, because it does feature not only that one kind of rose that we're focusing on today, the May Rose, but the Turkish Rose and the Bulgarian Rose. So in addition to that, it's featuring the earthiness and the woodiness of the Patchouli with Sichuan pepper, which is like black pepper or pink pepper with a little bit of a lemony edge to it. So it's a great scent. To me, it feels like it's a little bit like a cheaper styling of a fragrance, but I like its overdose of rosiness, and it's a great smelling fragrance. It's been done before, but I think they did a good job with this particular fragrance. It might be a little overpriced, but I think it smells great. Rose Prick is the first fragrance I'm going to start with today from the house of Tom Ford, but we are moving on to the house of Christian Dior, or Dior, in the Dior Privé collection. We've got La COLLE Noire. This is definitely the May Rose come to life, or the Rose Centifolia come to life, and it's indefinitely the Dior Privé collection style. It has a kind of a DNA there, and it's got the Francois Demachet touch here with this particular fragrance. So not only does it feature the Centifolia rose, this fragrance does also feature fruity notes, raspberry, there's peony, there's lily of the valley, there's peach, white musk, black currant, lemon, and honey. And as I was saying, the Rose Centifolia, or Grasse Rose, or May Rose, Rose de Mai, has a kind of a honeyed experience to it. There's definitely a sweetness there, and because of this honeyed experience, I do get more of a jammy experience with this particular rose. It's really, really gorgeous, really, really beautiful, almost to the point of edible. And I've had plenty of rose jam in my lifetime, and also rose drinks laced with rose petals and things like that. So it's almost like when you wear these particular perfumes, you're drinking this stuff. But this is definitely on the fruity side and also watery side. And to me, it feels like, raindrops dropping on the roses on a warm day. So you experience that kind of warm humidity in the air with this particular fragrance, but you got that cooling contrast as well. So to me, this has that kind of an experience. And I think they did a good job with this one. It's a little aquatic, but more water rather than marine kind of a thing, but lots of roses and fruity notes and flowers. So this is La COLLE Noire from the house of DIOR. Let me know if you know that particular fragrance. Moving on to the house of Louis Vuitton. Interesting, this fragrance and then of course La COLLE Noire were launched around the same time. And from what I hear, or from what I had heard, Francois Demarche and Jacques Cavalier, who does the fragrances for Louis Vuitton, used to be next to each other, because both of these fragrances do remind me of one another. La COLLE Noire and Rose de Vence. La COLLE Noire is Dior, Rose de Vence is Louis Vuitton. But they go in a little different directions. And once again with this one from Louis Vuitton, the Rose de Vence, it is that kind of watery experience as well. In fact, the entire first drop of the fragrances of Louis Vuitton did have this kind of like cohesive DNA of wateriness running throughout it. And as I was saying, like raindrops on the roses. And that's kind of the experience here with this particular fragrance. This one doesn't have too much of a fruitiness, but it does. It does have the peach. Actually, I should take that back. It is definitely fruity. For me, I get a little bit more of a fruitiness with the La COLLE Noire, but this one definitely is there as well. But it does feature Centifolia rose, Turkish rose, Bulgarian rose, with peach and black currant, and of course green notes and white musk. But the fragrance is really, really delicious. It's very, very rosy and also fresh, just like the La COLLE Noire. And then of course it does get a little fruity and then musky as well. Rose de Vence from the house of Louis Vuitton. That's the next fragrance. And I've got two fragrances from the house of Louis Vuitton. Les Sables Roses goes into a deeper, darker direction with this one. And it features the oud experience as well. But then again, this does have the oud in it. It's not anything like Ombre Nomade from the same collection at Louis Vuitton where it's all oud. Maybe there's like a faint rosiness with that one, some fruitiness and amber touches. This, on the other hand, it's the reverse. Lots of rose here, lots of Centifolia rose, and of course we've also got the Bulgarian rose in here. Along with that, you've got Ambergris, Saffron, black pepper, and don't forget the oud with this one as well. It does get a little oudy, but it's not as oudy as, of course, Ombre Nomade. So I think these two fragrances, Ombre Nomade, Les Sables Roses, are perfect layering experiences. But in this particular fragrance, once again, there is that kind of wateriness running throughout it, and there's a light aquatic marine thing happening with it as well, but it's lots of roses. I still get that kind of like dewy kind of rose experience, but this particular rose with the Centifolia rose and the Bulgarian rose is a lot more intense. It's a lot more, it has a lot more substance to it. It's a thicker, denser, and stronger as well. So Les Sables Roses, it's a great fragrance. I absolutely love roses. I mean, I grew up eating rose jam and drinking rose water, so I kind of maybe got used to the smell and I didn't have a problem. It's probably one of the first floral notes to really fully embrace because of that experience of eating the jam and, drinking the rose liquid or rose water and things like that. But, later on I embraced all the other flowers as well. So moving on to the house of ATELIER MATERI, here we have Rose Ardoise, and this particular fragrance does feature two kinds of roses. It's Damascena rose and of course the Centifolia rose, the May rose, Rose de MAI, the Cabbage rose, the Grasse rose, all those different names for that rose. So this is a very rosy experience, but also metallic. There's definitely minerally metallic touch with this fragrance. And this is also not as jammy as some of the previous fragrances I was talking about. This is more like Rose Prick, where I feel like Rose Prick definitely has the dryness. La COLLE Noire and Rose de Vence and even Les Sables Roses were definitely more jammy, like there were syrupy touches. Here it goes dry, and I think it's because of this kind of like minerally metallicness that's in here. So in addition to the Centifolia rose and the Damascena rose, we've got pink pepper, sage, nutmeg, vetiver, ambroxan, and leather. So it does eventually become a little leathery and woody and earthy. One thing I should say is I notice in fragrances that pink pepper really complements roses. There's definitely something rosy about pink pepper, and so it adds this kind of like a spicy edge to rose, and it does do a wonderful job here with Rose Ardoise. So Atelier MATERI Rose Ardoise. A wonderful, wonderful fragrance. Moving on to the house of Diptyque, it's Eau Rose in the Eau de Parfum concentration. So this is a thicker version of their original fragrance, which was obviously an Eau de Toilette. So the other one was a lot fresher. This one to me is a lot thicker and denser, plus greener. There's definitely a stemmy, you know, there's definitely a stemmy experience here, like green, but according to Diptyque, they're calling it artichoke. Apparently the notes together here create an artichoke accord. I like that idea. I like the artichoke touches here, but to me it reminds me of stems, like rose stems, because I've smelled plenty of roses and the stems themselves. I've cut them and put them in vases and things like that for my mom. That kind of reminds me of that. But this is all rose centifolia along with rose Damascena, and then they've thrown in some kind of like a grassy hay-like chamomile note with its kind of minerally touches, of course the artichoke, musk, and the woods. There's a little bit of a fruitiness, a light fruitiness in here, like lychee fruit or some kind of a, not a plum, but like a berry kind of a thing in here. That's in here. I'm getting the experience in its uncredited note, but it's a beautiful, beautiful fragrance. I really, really love this one. I like that green contrast, the stemminess, where they call it the artichoke. So Diptyque's Eau Rose in the EDP concentration is really, really solid. Absolutely awesome, awesome smelling fragrance. Moving on to the house of Paris Monte Carlo. This is actually called Rose de Mai from the house of Paris Monte Carlo, and this is also created by Jean-Claude Elena. He's got his signature touch here. It faintly also reminds me of something like Rose and Queer from the house of Frederic Malle, which he also created, but distantly, not identical. Definitely has a greenness to it, and it has a kind of aromatic, herbal kind of an experience. I think because this features not only the Rose de Mai, but also geranium, immortelle, and musk. So in Rose and Queer, from Frederic Malle, they used geranium to create a rosiness. Here, it's Rose de Mai or May Rose along with geranium. Geranium definitely has a rosiness and mintiness, and I get that here, kind of like mintiness, because the geranium has these qualities. If you don't know or have never experienced this, pick a flower from the geranium bush or even its leaves and smell it, and you'll definitely start learning the smell of specific ingredients and fragrances, and you'll go, okay, that smells like geranium, that smells like this thing or that thing. And here you can definitely experience the geranium and its mintiness, and of course its rosiness. It's a great scent. It's a bit minimalistic, I should be honest about that, but you know, that's what Jean-Claude Elena is known for, a little bit more minimalistic fragrances, and it's a great smell. I think it's a everyday kind of a wear, I think, perfect for that. So it's Paris Monte Carlo Rose de Mai, and it's a great smelling fragrance. So moving on to the house of Givenchy, this is Noctambule, this one right here. I just featured it in another video this week, and I'm bringing it here as well because it does feature Grasse Rose, or it's the May Rose or the Rose Centifolia. This is from Givenchy's collection Particulier is the name of the collection. And then these are the 3 new fragrances they dropped a couple months ago in a sub-collection called Hotel Particulier. And this is absolutely fantastic. My favorite from the 3 fragrances in the Hotel Particulier collection. And it is a concentrated take on a very spicy oud and rose combo. This is oud with Grasse Rose, there's cumin, there's papyrus, there's pink pepper, and it's one fantastic smell. I like its substance, I like its intensity, I like its sexiness, and I like the whole rosiness. This is definitely also not necessarily syrupy, it's more on the dry side, and I think what notes go in here, like the papyrus note and the agar wood note, and perhaps the cumin, create a more of a dry experience rather than like a very jammy, rosy experience. It's so good. Really, really great smelling. I love the way this smells. It's a Givenchy Noctambule. Check that out if you have not tried it yet. Moving on to the house of Maison Francis Kurkdjian, and this is where I have 2 different fragrances, and both of them are using May Rose or Grasse Rose or Rose Centifolia. One's targeted to the ladies, one's targeted to the men. This is à la Rose for the ladies, and then L'Homme à la Rose for the men. Let's talk about the ladies version here. The ladies is definitely pretty, and I could say it's kind of in that vein of La Colle Noire or Rose de Vence. It's definitely a very, very pretty, feminine leaning rose rose fragrance. Fresh. It's grass rose, Bulgarian rose, bergamot, orange, violet, magnolia, musk. There's a little bit of a makeup-y, lipsticky thing happening with the a la rose for ladies as well. But it's beautifully floral. It's got some muskiness to it, and it's got some light spices, but it's definitely very, very citrusy and rosy. So that is the woman's a la rose from the house of Maison Francis Kurkdjian, utilizing the May rose or the grass rose. And then the men's, I think it's a little bit of a disappointment. I think what they did with this one, it's not my all-time favorite. I think it's definitely wearable. It's definitely a very, very green take on rose, hence the green looking, you know, detailing here. It's, once again, May rose, damask rose, grapefruit, amberwood, sage, and labdanum. It does have a very mass kind of smelling rose fragrance experience, and also very, very masculine. It's almost like they've stripped away all the rosiness and then left us with something green, like more of the stems, along with like an ambroxan-y kind of amberwood like a base with some aromatics and ambery touches thrown in. So that is L'Homme à la Rose from the house of Maison Francis Kurkdjian, but both of them, the men's and the women's, utilize the grass rose or the May rose. And finally, ending the video with Papillon Perfumery's Tobacco Rose. This list is not ranked, as I said earlier. Did I say that earlier? But this rose fragrance is absolutely delicious. This is the first fragrance I ever bought from this house because I really like the whole combination of notes in here. There's no tobacco, but there's definitely a tobacco-ish vibe here. And of course, it features hay, and of course the Rose de Mai and Bulgarian rose. And for me, it's a very fizzy experience, like Coca-Cola or some kind of a rose cola kind of an experience, because there's a sparkling effervescence thing happening with this one that I absolutely love. It's uplifting. Maybe perhaps there's some aldehydes or something, but it's absolutely delicious. It's bright, it's fun, it's a little playful, but definitely a little jammy rose, and it has a little bit of a substance, and there's that kind of tobacco-ish thing running throughout it without actually featuring tobacco. So it's not going to smell ashy or anything like that, but there's that reminder of there's potentially like a tobacco note running throughout it. Tobacco Rose is delicious from Papillon Perfumery. If you don't know that one, do let me know, or actually don't let me know, but go out and sample it if you can, because I do recommend that one. And from that house, my favorite is Salome, but that Tobacco Rose is my second favorite from that house. So anyway, those are the fragrances featuring the May Rose, or the Rose Centifolia, or the Rose de Mai, or the Cabbage Rose, or the Provence Rose. And it is happening now. Apparently it happens, 4 to 5 weeks from the start of May till, maybe into the first week of June, somewhere around there. And they're harvesting these roses, and they go into the making of perfumes like this and a lot of other perfumes. These are the fragrances I had, and with my research I discovered that these are all the fragrances featuring the May Rose or the Rose de Mai. There's probably a ton more that I have that I'm not 100% sure that they do feature the May Rose, but if you know of any, let me know, put a comment down, and let me know if you knew about this particular May Rose or the Rose Centifolia, and did you know about its specific time of the year that it's harvested. And if you guys ever make it to the south of France, if you're close to Nice or Monaco or anything like that, I highly, highly recommend, if you are into perfume, take a day trip to Grasse, because it is an amazing experience. The first time I went there, the town was a little broken down, the main city center, but the last couple of times I've been, they're kind of like rebuilding it, and it's turned out to be great. And there's all these different perfumeries there you can go visit. And of course, if you go in May, maybe you can join in and do the harvesting too, because the smell of roses is one of the best smells ever in the whole entire world. Anyway guys, thanks so much for watching today's video on Rose de Mai or Rose Centifolia Rose. If you have any questions or comments, please do let me know. Do let me know of other fragrances that do feature the Rose de Mai. And of course, more prominently, because I did have some fragrances that I found that were not really prominent rose fragrances, but did feature the May Rose or the Rose Centifolia. But these are definitely focusing on rose. Yeah, so put a comment down so I can find out if there's anything else. Other than that, guys, please like this video. Please share it. Follow me on Instagram and Facebook, and I'll be back with more videos very soon. Have a good one. Goodbye. got one more bonus fragrance, and I just recently discovered it here in the studio. This is from a house called Linda Landenberg, a Trembling Rose, this one right here. So it's full-on rosiness here, lots of rose centifolia, lots of Bulgarian rose, and along with that there's Turkish rose as well. And they've thrown in carnation, sandalwood, and blackcurrant. So there's a little bit of a fruitiness here, a little spiciness from that carnation note, kind of takes on a little bit of a characteristic of cloves, but it's lots of roses. It's very, very rosy fragrance. And this one to me also, it's not necessarily syrupy once again. It's kind of in between, like it's a little dry, it's a little syrupy, but it's definitely great. And I think this one kind of sticks on, and you can smell the rose, you know, when you spray it, it sticks on, and you can smell all this rosiness, and it's actually really, really delicious. The other thing is this one also has a very, very woody, dried down with the sandalwood note. So it does kind of get a little creamy with that. So this is Linda Landenberg, a Trembling Rose, and that is the bonus fragrance for you guys. Thanks so much for watching. Have a good one. Bye-bye.